places or institutions within Shantiniketan. That is after Kala Bhavan. And right from the beginning, I'm sure you already know that this was envisaged by Tagore that the education should be holistic and creativity and creative subjects should play a very important role within the entire education system. Therefore, right from the beginning, he was very, very careful about this, that in the school studies should be as inclusive as possible so that beside teaching and learning science, language, history, etc., fine arts and music should be mandatory for everybody right from the beginning. Then, over a period of time, Tagore was coming up with an idea that why can't we have, for higher studies, a separate school, what in America we call school, and here it's called college or institution, dedicated to visual arts or fine arts and music together. Therefore, 1919, so more than 100 years back from today, this is that place that he had set out. All these buildings were not there, of course. The building right over there was there right from the beginning. One or two buildings like this one, without the mural on the wall, was already there right from the beginning. Some of them were there, and most of the buildings came up later, gradually. Very interesting part of this early history of what we call Kala Bhavan, which precisely means Kala suggests arts, fine arts. Bhavan is the institution. It was not called Kala Bhavan in the beginning. It was called Kala Sangeet Bhavan. Sangeet means music. Mm-hmm. So that was also a great idea. Today we are talking about interdisciplinarity. We are talking about cross-discipline studies. And this is exactly what he wanted to do right in the beginning. That it shouldn't be like exclusive to each other. Music, fine arts, visual arts, music should be learned, practiced, taught together, simultaneously. Okay. But what happened for many practical reasons? One of the reasons being the number of students. It was a growing number of students. Therefore, he had to kind of separate. So we have Sangeet Bhavan right over there. That's the very next building is Sangeet Bhavan. And then this place became exclusively for Kala Bhavan. That's one very interesting part of this history. And secondly, well, of course, this institution was meant to teach not only art, although it was meant for visual arts, it was also very, very inclusive in the sense that what they conceived and meant and how they defined art at that point of time was also very interesting, because they thought it's not just about painting or sculpture, it's also about designing everything. And especially not just, let's say, textile design, ceramics, pottery. Along with that, the other day I was reading a small little account, a kind of reminiscences, recollection of by one of the very, very early students of Kala Bhavan. And he's writing that we were also taught book binding. We were also taught leather work, woodwork. Mm-hmm. So again, for them, art meant to be a kind of discipline, A, holistic, 2, inclusive, and 3, practically applicable to life. Besides the fact that they also taught and encouraged students to practice their own independent artworks to express themselves. So therefore, again, initially, Kala Bhavan did not have, really speaking, what now we have separated as departments. It was again one single school teaching you everything. That's one. Then the other very interesting part was that although this was an art college which primarily meant to look at the possibilities of reviving our past as a counterposition to colonial art education. That we need not forget our past, the Indian heritage, Indian past. But at the same time, it was very clear, right at its inception, especially one of the very important teachers whom Tagore handpicked from Kolkata and wanted him to come and join Shantiniketan Kala Bhavan at the earliest. His name was Nandalal Bose. Initially, Nandalal was slightly reluctant to leave Kolkata. Kolkata was a great metropolis those days, very happening city. And this was a God-forbidden place, far away, very, very far away. 150 kilometers today doesn't mean anything. You reached within 4.5 hours. But those days, even by the fastest train, it took 10 hours to reach from Kolkata. So therefore, this was a very remote place those days, and Tagore wanted him, Nandalal Bose, to come and join and take the leadership. He should be in charge of Kala Bhavan. And when Nandalal joined, again, he made it very, very clear that for him then, Kala Bhavan is not just about reviving the past, it is also about rediscovering the present. And how do you do that? Number one, he took advantage of this place. Today, of course, we are encountering everywhere. We are going in Shantiniketan, we are encountering rampant construction, buildings, houses, hotels, resorts, and all sorts of things. But even if you Google like old Shantiniketan pictures, you will find absolutely open spaces and the presence of nature, very strong presence of nature. Therefore, this was, I think, a wonderful idea that they generated, they formulated, and they practiced in terms of teaching and also doing drawings and paintings. That let's have now nature as a major source of inspiration, number one. Not just inspiration, nature should also teach how to draw and paint, conceptually as well as technically. And they were also, and this is where like the past and the present kind of had a very good blending, because in the past we know that the ancient, the heritage painters for that matter of India, they always collected pigments from natural sources. So Nandalal Bose, he also taught and practiced, and also he made his students do the same. They, instead of really buying ready-made colors from shops, why don't we discover pigments from nature? Why don't we discover forms from nature? Why don't we discover subject matters from nature? So this led to a different kind of art practice here, where past was there, but not imitation of past. No way. He wanted that we should be imitating the heritage styles. We should be discovering and reinventing new styles. But at the same time, it shouldn't be completely idiosyncratic, that you just make anything out of your mind. It has to have a real connection with real life, nature and the rural society around. These two, and they happen to be subject matters which appear very, very frequently in their drawings and paintings. And then a very interesting thing that we shall soon see here around that after this brief introduction, that he also made that he made it almost, let me say, mandatory for every student that your art practice should not remain limited within your studio space. You should come out and do artworks for public. Mm-hmm. So what we later, much later, many decades later came to know or came to understand, came to conceptualize as public art, that was already there. The idea was there without this need. So everywhere you go in Shantiniketan, you find either murals on the walls, open-air sculptures, and plenty of them. That became a part of their regular practice, part of the pedagogy, and definitely a part of their art production. So when we talk about Kala Bhavan as the art center of Shantiniketan, we primarily indicate or suggest that historically it suggests two things. Number one, education. That is what Shantiniketan Kala Bhavan was famous for. And secondly, art practice. And therefore, in the modern art history, modern Indian art history, you find that Kala Bhavan plays a very, very, I would say, very instrumental role, a very significant role, not only in shaping the modern art history in a way, but also contributing to the modern Indian art history in a way that other centers would not do. So these are the three coordinates, that the education and the art practice. So I have been often asked